Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patriot League Media Day for 2015 for the football season. I'm Gary Laubach. I once again will be doing play-by-play for the Lafayette Leopards. Mike Joseph, John Leone will be joining me for the football games. We invite you, as always, to join us for the entire season if you can't get out to Fisher Stadium. I'm with head coach Frank Tavani, and I'd like to start on a happier note, but I think it bears mentioning again, Frank. It's been a little bit of time, but I don't think time has healed the situation, losing your tight end Brian Keller to an automobile accident. How are you holding up? How's the family holding up? And more importantly, I guess, how are his fellow teammates holding up?
Well, Gary, it's going to be an ongoing healing process. I've spoken to our young men at length. Obviously, I'm in constant contact with the family. I haven't spent 2 days in the trauma unit at bedside with his parents and Brian. Certainly not something that I'm prepared for, but things you do when you're in charge of these young men. But this will be an ongoing process. The family, they just came to campus a week ago to gather his things at the apartment where he was staying for the summer. And then I think the big moment was certainly for 60 of our young men here training, having the family come down, talk to the kids, watch them train, had a meal, and then went down to the locker room, which they're pulling personal items out of the locker, including poems and other things that you just didn't know. And a lot of things, Brian was a real talented young man. He did a lot of other things besides football, but those kind of things are part of the healing process, Gary. And we gathered around our logo as we do pregame and postgame, and had our moment of prayer or private meditation. And then the family spoke, and some kids spoke, and people cried and hugged. And it's got to be something you have to continue to talk about.
Right.
It's not something hey, let's not talk about that anymore. No, we got to continue to talk about it, and we celebrate this young man's life.
Well, it's time for football. I mean, that's why we're here today. All the teams are represented here today. I like where you're picked. You're picked to finish fourth.
The lower, the better.
Yeah, you're picked to finish fourth. That's the middle of the pack. I like that. I don't like when they try to put you down the bottom or put you too far up near the top. And you're picked ahead of Lehigh. I like that too. So your thoughts on the preseason poll, which I know because I've asked you this 16 times, means absolutely nothing to you.
Well, I wouldn't say it doesn't mean anything to me. I know where I don't want to ever be picked, and we've been there a couple times, and it doesn't turn out well when you're picked first. Now it did for Fordham, I think a year ago that way, and but it's been a lot of years. You look back, the team preseason pick has not been the team. That team's gotten knocked off, so not an enviable position to be in. We're about where I would have maybe thought. I don't know what people put into that. I think this league continues to grow and get stronger in every game, whether it's the number 1 team or the last number 7 team. You can get beat if you don't show up and do what you need to do. Any team is capable of beating you in this conference, and I think that's what continues to keep us strong. So, there's certainly motivation in there, and but it doesn't matter about where you start, it's where you finish.
Absolutely. We've learned that over the years. In case you are interested in wondering who was picked ahead of Lafayette, well, Fordham was picked to win the league, to repeat as the champions. Bucknell, who took Fordham to overtime at the end of the season last year, picked to finish second, and Colgate was picked to finish third. Then the Leopards and Lehigh are up in the next 2 spots. Frank, briefly, we'll talk about your team because we'll have plenty more time to do this before the season begins. Your major concerns right now, the healthier quarterbacks, I would assume, and everybody seems to be talking offensive line.
Well, there's no doubt. It's just I think we have probably one of the most talented groups in the offensive line we've had man for man, but there's 12 of them, which really creates a depth issue. Not being 3 deep, not having 15 O-linemen at every practice is difficult. And things will occur, so before you know it, you'll be having some practices and there won't be 10 O-linemen to practice a particular day, and it really creates an issue in how you practice. So I've actually, the O-line is on a rep count. There's a such thing as a pitch count, and then there's a throw count on our quarterbacks. But the O-line, for the first time in my career, is actually on a rep count. And now we got to go hard. We want to run the football. I am really emphasizing that part of it, but I want to run the football better, and I want to win the time of possession, because I believe all those things factor into your defense, and I think this defense can really get after some people, and we got to keep them fresh. So You know me, I've always wanted to run the ball and stop the run, as boring as that sounds, everybody, but it's always remained true for me, Gary.
Well, it's interesting. I don't think you'll get a lot of questions about the defense. I mean, they look as solid as can be. I'm not sure you've ever had a better secondary.
Well, we just have to stay healthy. Again, it's all nice right now on paper and on that board, but there's a lot of practices, a lot of work to be done, and probably the most challenging schedule I've had to face as a head coach.
No question. I think it's the most difficult schedule that I've seen in the 18 years that I have been part of the Lafayette Leopard family. I'm going to go back to the quarterback's health, and I'll go back to I don't think anybody replaces Ross Sherman, but who steps in for Ross?
Well, I think there's a couple of guys right now. I think, at the head of that, Deshaun Brown and Kyle Mayfield. I think those are the two at least going in, but there's some other talent there that are going to include Deuce Gruden, who had a heck of a spring and showed that he can be very, very good in those short yardage situations. He gets lost in there. He has great decision-making now and quickness and strength, and he can pound you. So, it's time for the next man to step up, and I think there's some talent there. But, you're not going to replace the kind of year that Ross had.
Are you avoiding the quarterback question, or just
not at all? I mean,
to me,
it's still you got two quarterbacks who I think are as good as anybody in the league and can be. Both have won. Both show that they have tremendous leadership, and it's a luxury. I think Drew was the starter and he got hurt. Then Blake came in and took us to probably as big a win as we've had in the history of the program in terms of being down 16 at Colgate and coming back and winning. And then Blake gets hurt. So they'll split the reps in camp because we're going to do that anyway to save arms. And it's really a luxury having two guys like that have started and proven that they can win.
Well, let's hope that is indeed the case. It all starts September 5th when Lafayette takes on William and Mary at home. We'll be there on the Lafayette Sports Network for that one. Coach, go get them, and I'll see you at practice.
We're ready to roll.
When I come back, I'll be with three of Frank's best football players when I sit down and chat with three of the Lafayette Leopards. Stay with us.